Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Elias Marty, the thoughtful and engaging host of Politically High Tech. His podcast explores the nuanced intersection of politics, history, technology, and spirituality, offering listeners a refreshingly balanced perspective in our increasingly polarized world. As a native New Yorker and self-described history buff, Elias has made it his mission to restore civil conversations around difficult topics from American political tribalism to technological advancements and even matters of faith. What makes his podcasting journey particularly compelling is his commitment to amplifying independent voices that represent the silent majority rather than the vocal extremes. He's here to share how he's built a platform dedicated to fostering understanding across divides and creating space for the complex, nuanced conversations our society desperately needs right now. Tell us your name and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elias Marty. I am the host of Politically High Tech. I'm just going to be very brief about the podcast introduction. I talk politics with the current events. And then the second type episode is technology. AI has been kind of put to the side as secondary. It's not primary like the last season. And then I got the third, I would say the most positive part is development. Anything that evolves humanity, anything that improves humanity. That's what I mean by development. It doesn't always have to be professional. It can be spiritual. It can be financial, legally, it could be even physical or mental, anything that really improves humanity. So, yep, and I'm a native New Yorker. Yep.
Is this one podcast, or did you just mention 3 different podcasts?
No, it's actually one podcast focused on 3 different things, and I tend to mesh the things together. And it sounds like they're different podcasts, but I cover, like I said, the politics. I deal with the current events related to what the guest expertise is, that tied to a current event. And then for the tech, I do the same thing, but the tone for the politics is more dark, not as optimistic. Tech, I'm more middle. I'm more of the middle, so it kind of reflects my personality. And then development is my happiest side, my optimistic side of things. Okay. So that's my 3 sides of me.
I like that. I like this. This is quite a different format, and yeah, it's good to see. What was the inspiration behind you doing the podcast this week? Because it's quite different from the traditional.
Well, the way I see it is, no one can represent me like I do myself, right? No, when it comes to politics, which that was my main angle, that's my main angle of the podcast. I needed to represent the moderate, the independents, because in America, there's only 2 main parties, the Democrats and Republicans. And I don't like both of them. I think they both are pretty lame. So I need to be more the middle, the independent, who, try to understand different people, try to do my part to unite the country. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just one guy on the mic, but so far I'm getting an audience, I would say so far is pretty diverse. I think it's slightly a little more Republican, but I'm trying to even get more Democrats in it, which I'm actually been improving on recently. I mean, I'm talking about at least 2 weeks ago. So it's a tough act because I'm trying to, in a way, do so many hats, but I'm trying to make it uniquely me at the same time. That's a challenge I put on myself, so it's only my fault. I would like to blame people, but it's really my fault at the end of the day. So for doing it like that.
At the end of the day, the goal is to love what we're doing, and you're the chef. You're the one preparing this recipe called the podcast, and you make the rules, man.
Oh, no, exactly. I'm going to change it eventually. Probably next season is going to probably even be simpler at some point, because I just feel like the tech part is getting a bit stale. That might be pushed aside. I might just combine more politics and spirituality and just mesh it together. And then maybe I'll throw a little technology in there. But yeah, I am going to be changing the ingredients, so to speak.
We see. Yeah. How old is the podcast?
It is 5 years old. I've started it a little before the pandemic. Yeah, and definitely by the end of the season, I'll definitely pass 300 episodes. So yeah, it's been slowly but growing. Yeah, it's slowly but growing. And I would say this is more like my passion project turned side business. I'm finally making a profit after 5 years.
Ooh,
That's a struggle.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Okay.
not. It was definitely not easy for sure. I wanted to quit at least probably the much of probably like 300 times or more. I don't know. I should do this, but more people just little by little say, we gotta hear your voice. Of course, you're gonna get supporters, haters, skeptics, people that don't get it, and all, and everybody in between.
You
So,
you
and it's
you
been run as a
mentioned,
one man show. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, you mentioned that you're making money from the podcast. So I'd love for us to explore that part. When did you start making, quote unquote, making money from the podcast as a business?
I would say actually starting this year
Okay.
because that's when it became an LLC. I was able to write off a lot of expenses, so I said I could profit right there. And of course, whatever. And that's shameless plug-in. Podmatch even helps with that as well. Um, Especially when you're in a paid plan. Now there's standard and there's pro. The only big difference is with pro is that you just get more visibility and yet you get to see more of the podcast metrics, as opposed to standard. Standard is you just get a lot of the same benefits, but just a little. You just get less access to the episodes. You can still find it, but there's not one click away in the profile, and then you can see the metrics on the professional, unlike standard, and standard is cheaper. So
Yeah. Are you on the pro plan?
I am on the pro plan.
I'm curious, right? Uh, I'm on the host plan, right? I'm always curious because, and I saw this metrics numbers and all those things. I was like, okay, maybe one of those days when I do upgrade to the pro plan, I will just try and compare and see if the metric feature is really any good. So now that you're on the pro plan, I guess before you booked the podcast, you saw the metrics of this podcast. Let's try and compare and really see if the thing is on point. What's the metric Podmatch told you this podcast has?
Let me check that right. It's a good thing I have that tab open. I was pretty
Okay.
prepared just in case I was going to ask some questions. To be honest, if I'm going to be honest, I'm not that impressed. Oh, it says you got 6 5-star reviews. Social media followers. It said seven. It says 70% for the 30 followers you have, and then it says you have 12 up. You have downloads per episode is 12. Episodes in total is 21, and then everything else you can kind of see from that. And then you have one click access to some episodes. Um, to be honest, so far I don't find that impressive. If I'm going to be honest, because how you measure all of that, I'm going to be. But the only reason why I pay for pro personally for me is just to gain more visibility. And I
Okay.
won't be
Okay.
surprised you find me even faster because I'm just doing that for 1 year, and then I might just go back to standard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think standard was
It
actually
all makes
perfect for
sense now.
me. But
Yeah. It all makes sense now. How's this guessing on Podmatch, right? How's that affected your podcast growth?
well, Podmatch has actually been helpful. Now I kind of bash their profile a little bit. I'm just praise. Let me down. Now I could give them some praise. Podmatch has been really instrumental to my growth because up to the third season, I was so close to quitting. And then I had a message out of nowhere for Alex Sanfilippo saying, "Oh, well, you try my service, try it for free, and we can find guests," because I had no idea how to find a guest. Before Podmatch, I had zero idea. Don't ask me how to find a guest. I said, I don't know. You asking the wrong guy. I would just tell you like that. You wasting your time asking me. But I would just give you that brutally honest answer. But until Alex Sanfilippo and team just gave me the message, oh, try on Podmatch. I was like, oh, I looked more into it. I was a bit skeptical. I was, oh, there's a free plan. Okay, there's nothing to lose. And then voila, I have it. I've been using it since my third season, like halfway through my third season. Because I wanted to bring guests. Because each season I try to either evolve in a major way or in a minor way, or change the themes. I try to evolve because I don't like me personally. I don't like doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't like reruns. And
uh,
starting. Yeah, I'm sorry.
no,
You,
I'm
you
I'm
know, I
just I'm just it's when you said you don't like doing the same thing, I can relate to that.
and I really don't because when I first did it Well, I first did my old seasons, and just to give you a little bit of difference from now, the recent stuff to way back then, I used to combine all three of those type of segments into one episode. They gave the timestamps. History will always go first, and there's times I'll tell you I'm not gonna have tech. Then I have tech, the timestamp, and then at the third used to be random because I didn't know what the heck I was gonna do. I wanted to talk about something funny or interesting. That's how I used to have. I used to have timestamp. I used to jam it all together. Sometimes those episodes were 1.5 hours to 2 hours. I realized those were not getting as much attention. When I shrink it, make it simpler, then I start realizing I have to make things simpler. I would like to be ambitious, consolidate everything together, but people were not consuming it as much.
Yeah.
So ever since season, I would say 4, I started doing just, okay, politics is going to be one episode, tech is going to be another one, and then I changed it to development eventually to like 5th season because now I have a direction what I want to do. So I want to promote positivity because politics is negative. People get down easily, and I'm sure other countries can relate to that. It ain't just America, Europe, and see what's going on in some Asian, African countries as well. There's chaos. That's a global thing, unfortunately. And then I started having development instead of just talking about random stuff. So how I'm gonna bring more value? Okay, no more random. Change it to development.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. Yeah.
it, and that started that section, then that third section started getting even more popular because it's okay, there's actually value. So I had to kind of read in between the lines because data is not very clear, it's scattered, it's all over the place. So I had to figure it out. My audience, I wish they could talk to me more, be critical, say I'm bad at this. And some of them did. They said, okay, sound quality was bad. I worked on that. Video quality was questionable. I said, okay, I worked on that. That's why I would say, give me feedback, give me feedback. Don't care about my feelings. Please don't care about my ego. I want this thing to grow, not my
Yeah.
ego. If it was about my ego, I would have did my own little podcast. I won't even care. I'll just get rid of all the critics. No, no, no. I
Yeah.
welcome critics. I welcome skeptics because sometimes those people could help you grow. As long as
Yeah.
you don't end up just calling you names or anything like that. So
Yeah. I
sometimes
think
you need the critics and the skeptics.
yeah, it's not just a question of critics or skeptics. It's about you making, if you're making something for me, you want to know if that thing is really helping me and if I like what you're making. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, and of course, supporters, is great to have, but I had to talk more about the critics and skeptics. I think podcasters, some of them don't know how to deal with them as well. That's why I emphasize that. But of course, supporters are great as well. To
Yeah.
me, that's not as interesting.
Yeah, the podcast community is quite supportive compared to other forms of social content creation. Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind the scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I generally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the podcast is now a business and it now makes money, right? I can you share what that looks like and how the podcast makes money? A little bit behind the scenes so we can understand what it means when you say the podcast make money and how the money comes in and all that.
One has to go through an LLC process. Complicated. It's long. If I tell you how that thing works, this will be easily be a 2-hour episode. So register as an LLC. Oh, that's one. Learn, and to be honest, it's a learning curve because I'm not a business major. I was more of a academic tech kind of guy and a history buff. I didn't know anything about business except for probably like the bare minimum. So I had to learn what LLC was, how was it beneficial. I had to do deep research, and then I finally registered as one. I finally took the risk. I said, okay, I pay for this. I pay for the tax services. Well, the tax service has been great. They gave me a lot of money in my returns. So that's a great service. So yeah, you're paying more, but you also get more in return. You got to think about the ROI. Sometimes you got to pay money, to make money. I know that doesn't make sense on the surface. So just like an investment, you put money down and the investment is good, the money multiplies. So that's what I've did, and that's been a game changer. 2 is Podmatch. Every time I have a new guest on my show, they do a review, and that's why I'm encouraging new guests. The Podmatch, to give them credit, they do help their creators. I mean, Alex Sanfilippo, he's not a con man. he is a man of his word. That I could say. And this is coming from a New Yorker, okay, an American who's skeptical, don't trust people very easily. I normally see a liar. I normally see the worst in people right away, unless you could prove me otherwise. Because I'm looking for reasons not to talk, not to trust. I know that that's not the healthiest way of looking at things, but that's what helped me a lot, and that's how I was able to avoid a lot of scams and deception because of that mindset. Am I easing it up a little bit? Maybe in presentation, because now I could talk friendly, but it doesn't mean I trust the person right away. I could be cool about it, so just being aggressive, like, hey, what the heck you doing? What's that BS, man? I said, okay, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested. I used to be more obnoxious about it, and I wouldn't even care. I'll just end it right there once I see inconsistencies, lies, and contradictions. So Alex Sanfilippo got my trust, and I told him that before. And Podmatch helped me get it gives me a little bit of money. I think on average it gives you, if I'm going to give you the real number on average, because it's monthly, I would say it's like $40, and this is for someone who uses it part-time. Okay. But if you're really intense using it to grind, I'm sure you could make even more money, probably even double or triple what I made. I use it part-time. So it's about roughly $40 a month. Not very impressive, but I'm open to other money strategies that will make it more profitable. I'm just saying, if you can help me out with that, that would be great. I'm being honest.
Yeah. 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 Just if the podcast has been running for 5 years now, and what does the audience data look like?
The audience data, it has changed. It used to be mostly male, kind of right leaning. It's still mostly American, but the average age it used to be for some reason 55. I think that it's more at 45 now, and I'm definitely getting increased presence of female audience. So I still think it's barely male dominated, but definitely more women are joining, which is good because I want more female listeners. I don't think they're going to be the majority. That's fine, but I definitely want the more. Before it was like 80-20 favoring males. The average age for some reason is older audience. So I mean by older, I'm talking about plus 45. That's what's still looking like. And I think in terms of political orientation, I think it still favors the right, but the data is changing. So whatever I tell you now, it could probably be obsolete by a month or two.
Yeah.
Because of
Okay.
changes that I've made.
Okay. How many downloads does the podcast get per episode or per month?
How much it gets per month?
How many downloads?
Oh, downloads. Oh, downloads per month. Oh, that's at least if I did my math correctly, if I get about 50 downloads a week, I times that by 4. It's about 200 now, which is very recent. That's been the average now, in total. That's not always new episodes. Some of them dig a little to pass. But I've been getting about 200 downloads per month audience. You know, I think most people you interview are pretty small creators.
Yeah.
But I'm so far happy with the audience that I got. I think my largest audience is on YouTube.
Okay.
With 96 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 100 or even more, obviously. Twitter, I refuse to call it X, has so far over 60, but some people come and go. Some of them are bots, some of them are fake. So I don't care for that number as much. Rumble was about 55 the last time I checked. And for some reason, I can't even get access to the Apple metrics. Other than that, it's been a small and gradual increase. I think the downloads has been increased more than unique listeners. Hey, that's the word I'm looking for. Unique listeners.
Okay. What's the major growth lever you've used for the podcast so far?
Oh, they use it to promote and share the content.
Hello, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now.
I said, what's the major growth lever you've used to grow the podcast?
Is it like stuff I use to promote the episodes or things like that?
What's the major growth lever you use to grow the podcast? Yeah, the internet is a bit shaky.
uh,
Okay.
uh,
I was asking you, what's the major way you've grown your podcast?
oh, the grow on the podcast. Well, Well, let's see. What do I use? Well, so far, you want to go through tools and promotion and all that other stuff? Because there's a lot I use just for that. If you want me to do it like that, just to grow my podcast. Well, I use Riverside because I think it has the best quality of recording. I use that, and that's my main source now. I think Riverside is better than even StreamYard in my honest opinion. I used to have StreamYard, but I rejected them after they failed to do what I asked them to do. Um, yeah, I'm the type that I'm a very vocal customer. Once I know that you're fooling around, you're not helping me, I leave right away. I use Riverside just to be clear. I think it's the best recording app that I use, and I can use it to extract, create clips. It's evolving, which is a good thing. I like a tool that evolves. That's what I use for recording. And then after that, once I do that, I of course do my edits. Make sure the sound quality is good, the visual quality is good to the best of my abilities. And then after that, the next tool I use is Wondershare Filmora, where I consolidate post production stuff like the intro music, outro music. I put all the stuff together there, combine it, and I'll also use it to create a thumbnail. That's why I use to create a thumbnail. And then after that, then I'm ready to upload the episode. I put it on Buzzsprout first because Buzzsprout is very good with sound. They have mastering sound feature. I use their pro plan. It's very good. It has even co-host AI, which helps summarize things for me. And I do check and correct this to see if it's off because sometimes it gets name wrong. It does all that, but without boring you with the details, after that I'll upload it, and it gives me good titles and suggestions for the episode. The thumbnail, I use like the most simplest language. I think it needs to be more visually captivating. And then for the title, and then after that, then it gives me all the descriptions, the title, and I transfer that information to YouTube. For Buzzsprout, I only use the audio data, which I use Wondershare Filmora just to create the visual version and the audio version. I put the audio version for Buzzsprout, and I put the video version on YouTube. I copy whatever Buzzsprout has suggested, and I put it straight to YouTube. That's what I do, and after that, I upload an episode. I upload 3 episodes per week alone. I do everything alone. I'm a one-man show. 3 episodes per week, a week. Yep. Politics normally Friday nights, Saturday nights is technology, and Sunday nights is development. That's how I have it.
That's back to
Yep.
Yeah, that's when you mentioned your podcast, I just want us to step back a little bit. When you started the podcast, what was the inspiration that led to you starting the podcast? Why podcast?
Well, this is gonna sound a little silly. First of all, I had free time, and I always had this thing that I always wanted to talk about the subjects I like, and especially like I said, it's the politics that really motivated me because I just see 2 camps that are arguing with each other. They be vicious towards one another, and they don't want to create a middle ground to benefit most Americans. I'm focused mostly in America. We have Democrats are about people in government. Republicans are more about less regulation and individual freedoms. So when they two just shouting each other, giving fake news and giving coverage only benefits that side, I said, no, we need someone who leads more fair-minded and someone who leads towards the middle to start talking about this issue. So that's what inspired me. It was always nagging, bothering me for years, because if I would have started sooner, this podcast would have been 10 years old. It's always nagging, bothering me. And finally, with the pandemic coming, I started January 2020, I just say, you know what? I need to start. I have a funny feeling this country's going to go through a weird time because I looked at the virus at the time, and I just say, you know what? I might as well just start. Just give it a shot. I just give it a shot. I'm tired of feeling failure. I'm tired of paralyzing myself, giving me 1,000 excuses not to start. Let's see how it goes. And I treat it like an experiment for the first 2 years. And I saw that literature was actually growing, which actually kind of scared me because I just thought, no one's going to listen. Who cares? No. Then I started getting numbers that people were actually downloading, listening to my stuff, which I find a little scary at first. I wasn't used to people listening to me. I'm not as talkative, and unless I need to express a certain opinion. But other than that, that's what inspired me to do that. Then I expanded to tech, and then even at the time random, but truthfully, I wanted to focus more on spirituality. I think believing in a higher power, God, is actually important because I see what's going on when the society steps away from that. It gets a bit crazier, just to put it nicely.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing. So far, how's the podcast, has the word affected you best?
Personally, I gotta say, I'm happy I made that decision. Even when it wasn't growing, even when it was stagnant, I'm happy I made that decision because I have made new friends. And thanks to having a good podcast network where, with some guests you become friends with, they share you good information. And in a way, the podcast is like a learning journey for me because I already have a certain set of skills and knowledge, but the guest helps broaden my views, enrich my views, and help me how to be more better at certain areas. Because before I wasn't doing a lot of action. I realized that was a big gap I was having. So I'm talking a good game. I'm not doing action, but now I'm doing action because I'm part of two organizations that's trying to change things. I'm part of a New York State organization that's trying to change voting rights. Because if you're independent like me, I can't vote in a primary. And then I'm also in the national alliance called national organization, I should say, Braver Angels, and that's trying to gather people of Democrats, Republicans to talk, and then even within the Big Ten of the parties. So that's more the action part. And I'm gonna share even insights about this person thinks this, person thinks that, how you handle someone you disagree with. And I had to talk to people I agree with and disagree with. I agree with Democrats on some issues. I agree with Republicans on some issues. Like for example, I agree with Democrats when it comes to I don't think you should discriminate LGBTQ plus people. I generally agree with Democrats in that. And Republicans, if they were honest about this, we need to deal with money more responsibly. I agree with Republicans on that one, more than just spend, 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 spend. Both parties have spend, spend, spend a lot, even though Republicans are supposed to be the fiscally responsible one. I'm calling the Republicans on that one. And Democrats are supposed to be the tolerant, liberal party, but they lash out when you have different opinions. Hypocrisy on the Democrat side. Oh, I mean, I'm flawed. I got my opinions. And let's see. Well, I could go on issue by issue where I lean more Democrat, more Republican, or sometimes I think both parties are stupid. Like immigration, both parties are stupid because they go too extreme. If Republicans got their way, they close the border and only certain people could come in. I'm against that. Democrats, if they have their full way, the border be wide open, anybody could come in. I'm against that too. We need a medium. You want to be welcoming at the same time, at the same time, get rid of those who are criminal. Because for the most part, migrants are good for America. Is it perfect the way they have done it? Absolutely not. If people say a migrant system is perfect in America, that person's on drugs, deep, deep
Uh,
drugs.
okay. The podcast has been around for 5 years, and you're going stronger and stronger. You're learning a lot. It's evolving. You're trying and testing out new things. What are some projections you have for the podcast?
Well, my projection is, let's see, I gotta check on my numbers here. I'm gonna go cheat for a second. Because I know I'm gonna hit more than 300 episodes by the time I'm done. I'm trying to make 75 episodes here. What was the last episode number? Was plus by 75. Yep. I'm gonna go cheat. I'm shameless. I'm being brutally honest here. Because my projection is I know I'm gonna pass 300, but I'm gonna give you the exact number here. Okay, I think it's 271. I think we might hit 345 episodes by early 2026. And I don't know what
Well,
the growth is going to be. I don't know what the growth is going to be, but I'm going to assume it's going to grow probably 10% per month. That's just me being moderately, cautiously optimistic. Since it's I would say kind of a hot political season, that affects the podcast as well. Because if the year is not as politically hot, well, I mean like U.S. president or midterms, if it shockingly, this year, growth has been good, which I'm a little surprised because I thought growth was going to be as good because this is an off year, meaning there's not a lot of political events going on.
Yeah.
So it'll be a bit slow. So that affects that. That's why I focus also on tech and development as well, so I could keep, a certain audience for certain things. I try to have a plan A, B, and C at the same time
Yeah.
because one plan is not going to work. You got to switch to plan B, and if B doesn't work, you got to go. I not gotta, but if you're resourceful, go to C. That's how I try to think of things. That's why I just don't rely on YouTube. I also got Rumble as well, which I eventually dumped episodes in there because so far I haven't gotten a single strike. I got a strike once from YouTube because I've been accused of spreading misinformation on the COVID.
Misinformation. YouTube. Typical YouTube.
Yeah, so I'll say fine. I didn't argue. I just changed it and I just pushed people to Rumble if they want the uncensored version. I
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
pivot. You gotta
Yeah.
have a backup plan because if you
Yeah,
don't, you're
exactly.
gonna be crushed.
Yeah. So some of the projections of the podcast you mentioned earlier is to get up to 245 episodes, of course increase growth by 10%, and yeah, and just keep on doing more of what's what. Yeah.
Yeah, I do my best. To me, I think of it as a journey. I used to just care about good results, perfect results, but I had to eventually change that because if I would still have that same mindset, I would have quit a long time ago. Because by now it's I should have 1 million subscribers. I should have 500,000 episodes, 500,000 downloads per day. That big egotistical delusional numbers. No, I just consider this as a learning journey. That's how I treat this podcast, and this is a more of a hobby slash business at this point. And I'm learning from a lot of good people. And I'm gonna be honest, some I guess are not so great. Well, most of them don't return because of that, and some just disappear. But the ones I could have return, I try to keep those as much as I can, especially when it comes to important, relevant topics, because their expertise would be greatly appreciated on some things. What's one I
Yeah.
bring a lot? I bring some people from the left and the right to talk about random political stuff. I invite some of them back because they have great opinions and they have great representation of that camp. That's why I have some
Yeah.
recurring guests. But I also have been having a lot of new guests as well. So far, I have a lot more left leaning guests, which is pretty good because I feel like my podcast is moving to the right, which I want. I want it to stay centered and diverse. I don't
Yeah.
want it to move too much to either direction. I don't want to become the next Fox News or CNN. No, I don't want that. So
Yeah.
I do my best to
I'm
avoid that.
curious. I'm curious. You mentioned earlier during the course of the conversation that you had feedback that the sound quality was bad. What did you do to improve?
Well, I'm wearing these headphones because before I didn't. And I also have a good mic here. It's a Yeti X Blue, which is the mic was already good. The problem is I had to filter out sound because from time to time I'm in New York City and the streets could get loud and you will never be warned. So you have to find a way to filter out the sound. And sometimes I used to jokingly call it the second unofficial co-host, the streets of New York. As in, once you hear like certain sounds, it's like, yep, I have to add humor to it because I don't want to be perfect, but I want to make it entertaining and value. I don't aim for perfection. I aim for authenticity and make it interesting. If a mistake happens, I try to adapt, pivot, or incorporate it in some funny way. And sometimes I allow some of my mistakes to be there too, because if I see a comedic purpose, it's gonna stay there. That's try to add a little bit of comedy into it because I think people want to listen to podcasts because they want to learn something more in depth or be entertained or relax. At least that's my thinking, at least, as opposed to mainstream cable news that's just quick argument, exaggeration and sound bites and clips. They only pay attention to the craziest part of the full speech, and then they have a little clip, and then they just talk about it and go crazy. I think that's
Yeah.
why podcast is more
Yeah.
popular among the young people.
Yeah. I'm glad you got that feedback, and I'm glad you did make some improvements to make things.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to feed your ego, It's, just go on the mountain and be by yourself because people are just not gonna put up with it in general. And that's what I'm gonna say. Like I said, I treat this as a journey because I had to learn as I go. I'm sure I'm not the first
Yeah.
person to tell you that. This was a big learning curve for me. I did some research and ideas how to start, but it comes to like the details and I had to learn that on my own, and I had to learn some of the stuff the hard way. Like for example, audio quality, video quality, all that I had to learn the hard way. Because I used to use Zoom at one point. I didn't like it because the quality was bad. And then I switched to different other video software, but so far I think Riverside is the best so far until they come with something better.
Yeah. What's one advice you would give to someone who's just starting out as a podcast?
I'm going to tell an advice I had to learn the hard way. And this is something very, very valuable. Listen to me very carefully. Know your purpose. Know your why. I started without knowing my why until the third or fourth season. And if you listen to my old episodes, you could tell. I was just experimenting. Treat it as a hobby. Know your purpose. Stick to it. That's what's going to get you by on the good days, the bad days, the boring days. And learn as you go. And it's okay to make mistakes. Turn mistakes and failures into a lesson. Don't make it a death sentence. It's not going to kill you. It's teaching you something if you're open to it. And take feedback as a lesson, especially ones that are criticizing certain aspects of the podcast. My case, it was mostly sound. I took that, even if it's one feedback, even if it's one person, take that as if it's 1,000 people. Because I'm sure that one person is representing thousands of people that had the same thing in mind, but that person was brave enough to text that feedback. Don't take it personal. That's my main advice throughout all of this.
Yeah.
Know your why, learn as you go, because most of us start small. We do this independently. Unless you have a big production team and all that, you have an idea because you could hire, a writer, a web person, a graphic designer, or a researcher. You'll have a team right there. Eventually, I want to grow to that point. That'll be a future plans. I have a team of small but capable, nimble team of people. Especially when the profits grow astronomically higher, then I would definitely want. I would like a co-researcher. I would like an editor. I would like a web designer. I would like, even an interior designer. I mean, my design's not that great. Look, it has a plain background and all that. It's nice for now, but I definitely want to level that up at some point. And definitely art designer because I'm a bad artist. I'm bad at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things of being an indie podcaster. You get to wear a ton of.
Oh yeah, especially when you're solo. Yep. Solo small
Yeah.
creator. Yeah. I mean the stuff that I'm not that good at, like writing, I had to get better at that. Digital design, I had to get better at that. I mean, it's tough, but at the same time it's rewarding because you learn new skills. And then once you
Yeah.
start hiring a team, you have a vision and you could guide them in a clear direction, so just learn as you go. Because if you don't know, if you're the leader, you don't know, if you don't have a direction, they're going to be confused, right?
Yeah.
Unless they have a dominant, bossy personality, then that person takes over, right? At least in the culture of the team. But other than
Yeah.
that, so this is why it's good for me to learn all this, have an idea, and then, of course, hire people who are more talented. Again, I kill my ego, hire the ones that's more talented in that area so the podcast could get better. It could get better. That's all
Yeah.
I care about. If it was about my ego, forget it. I'll keep doing this alone, even if I have $1 trillion. And that should be ridiculous at this point. I should be able to hire a great amount of people already. And it's good to talk to a team. We humans are social beings, and this is why we enjoy podcasts, because podcast is a modern way of storytelling in a sense. And we
Yeah.
love stories. We love stories ever since ancient times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elias. Thank you for sharing your podcast story and just giving us a sneak peek into the behind. I'd love to do a continuation of the story. Let me know probably when you get to 345 episodes or so. We then see you. How's the business doing? How's the podcast doing? What are the changes you made? Because you made mention of some things you love to experiment and I'd love to see how everything is progressing for the podcast. This is more like the chapter 1 of the story, and I'd love for us to tell the chapter 2 of this podcast.
I don't know. I'm open. I'm open. This is a different kind of thing. It was a bit challenging because I didn't know how I was going to tell those behind the scenes story. But who knows? You'll see the growth of me, and I'll probably be more concise words, but more impactful. Let's see from there. It'll definitely be sometime next year for sure. And then I want to experiment with live. I'm doing it live. I want to say how I do live, especially when it comes to emergency political events that happens right on the spot. What's the example I'm going to give real quick? Oh, the New York City mayoral race. Zoran Mandani, a socialist progressive Democrat who had, according to a lot of people, no chance of winning, but yet he won the primary. That could, stories like that. I want to be not one of the first, but I want to be one of the first group of people to start talking about that instead of just being like the
Covering
last
it.
group. Yeah.
Yeah, and it will help like boost the growth of the podcast. Yeah. And that's a nice idea to try. It works especially for your kind of podcast that does politics
Right.
is something that's changing every time, every day.
Exactly.
What's the name of your podcast again? And where can people learn more about you and your podcast?
Well, it is called Politically High Tech. That name might change, especially if I don't have a lot of tech ideas. I might have to come up with a fancy name for it. But as of now, till at least early 2026, it's going to stay as Politically High Tech because that's what I'm going to stick to. And, mine is a purple logo of a silhouette of a very empty UN building with no flags on it. It's just a shape of it with digital signs on it. And it's purple for a reason because I want to represent Democrats, Republicans, and the center. So the color is intentional. My favorite color is red. But if it was about me, I'll just be red. It'll be like a nice New York setting or something like that. Just with my face on it, smiling like I'm the best thing in the world. That's an egotistical kind of podcast. That's not what I want to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And where you could find me, I think that was another question. If I heard you right. Well, I am on YouTube, I am on Twitter, I am on Facebook, and I am on Buzzsprout as well. And I'm in Apple Podcasts as well. Those are my main sites I use. I'm sure I'm in more places, but I don't pay attention to those as much. Those are my main areas, and those are the areas where I will contact you the quickest.
Okay. The name over there is Elias Marty.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Elias. It's been an absolute delight chatting.
No, likewise. Thank you for the invite.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.